You won't believe what my wife did while I was recovering from a combat injury. My name's Adam, combat medic, 39 years old. 15 years of service, 4 tours. I've stitched up men screaming on the battlefield with one hand and returned fire with the other, but nothing could prepare me for what waited back home. 2 weeks after getting blown off my feet by an IED in Syria, I was flown stateside, shrapnel in my leg, nerve damage in my arm. They patched me up as best they could and sent me to recover in a VA hospital in Maryland. I still remember the smell of the antiseptic, the stale eggs at breakfast, the sound of someone groaning down the hall at 2 a.m. And then came the email. No call, no letter, just a notification. Subject line: let's be civil about this. Attached was a PDF file, divorce papers. My wife, Emily, had filed for separation while I was laid up on morphine and muscle relaxers. In that one moment, 12 years of marriage evaporated into 3 typed pages and an electronic signature. But that wasn't the betrayal. No, the betrayal came later. When I discovered what she really did, she didn't just leave me, she tried to erase me, steal everything I'd bled for, sell the house, forge my name, and get away with it. But what she didn't know is that I was trained for war, and this was a battle I was ready to fight, and I never lose. I was recovering at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany when the email came. The mornings were slow. Pain management, PT, psych evals. Afternoons were worse. Too much time to think. Too much silence, interrupted only by the occasional shuffle of crutches or the muffled whir of a wheelchair down the hallway. It was raining that day, cold, a gray curtain outside my window. I remember that because I had just finished my session with the physical therapist, a former Marine who never smiled, and I was icing my leg when my tablet pinged. One new message from Emily Branson. Subject: let's be civil about this. I stared at the subject line for a moment, not quite understanding, or maybe not wanting to. When I opened the email, it was 3 sentences long. Adam, I've filed for divorce. The papers are attached. I've moved out and taken what's mine. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. No greeting, no explanation, just a signed PDF at the bottom. I tapped on the attachment. 3 pages. Divorce petition, filed in California, a list of shared assets, our house in Oceanside, the savings account, the 2019 Ford Explorer I'd paid off 2 months before deployment. All of it, she'd already claimed. I didn't react, not at first. Didn't slam the tablet, didn't cry, didn't even blink. I just set it aside, swung my legs over the bed, limped to the sink, splashed cold water on my face. I'd been hit by shrapnel. I'd dragged men bleeding through sand and smoke. I could survive this. Back in my room, I opened the laptop on the desk, reread the email. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I clicked reply, typed 1 word, understood. Then I hit send. There was nothing else to say. Nothing she'd listen to anyway. No why would change what she'd already done. That night, I ate dinner in silence, pushed mashed potatoes around on a tray while the guy across from me, some kid from Vermont with burns up his arm, watched reruns on a flickering TV. He didn't ask me anything, and I was glad. I climbed back into bed, stared at the ceiling, and felt something inside me settle. Not break, not fall apart. Settle. Like a soldier locking in before the first shot. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was awake. And I was starting to pay attention. The thing about betrayal is that it's never sudden. Not really. It's quiet, gradual. Like a leaking pipe behind drywall. No sound, no warning. Until the whole ceiling caves in. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. But back then, I just told myself she was tired, that I was imagining things. The first flag came 6 months before deployment. We were sitting at our kitchen table, eating dinner. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. The kind of meal she used to love making. She was scrolling through her phone while I talked about the new medic I'd been training. She didn't look up once. Eventually, I just stopped talking. She didn't notice. Then there were the late shifts. Emily worked part-time as a dental assistant, 4 days a week, 9 to 3. But suddenly, she was covering for people, working evenings, Saturdays, Sundays. I asked her once if everything was okay at the clinic. She gave me a sharp look. Why wouldn't it be? I let it go. Then came the gym membership. She hadn't worked out in years, but now she was going 3-4 times a week. She'd come home with her hair still dry, no sweat, no towel. She claimed she just liked using the elliptical for cardio, no need to break a sweat. New clothes, new shoes, lingerie I hadn't seen her wear. or even wash. And new friends, people I never met. Work girls, she said, but I never saw a single one of them. Never once were they at our house. Never once was I invited to tag along. And the phone. The password changed. I asked her casually one night, "Hey, what's your code again? I need to call my phone from yours." She paused. That split second was all I needed. Then she smiled. "Oh, right. I updated it." She told me the new one, but I saw the lie in her eyes, and still, I didn't press. That's not how I'm built. My father always taught me, measure twice, cut once. Never act on impulse. Never swing first unless you're sure. So I started preparing quietly. I moved important documents, my military records, pension paperwork, birth certificate, even my dad's funeral insurance papers, to a secure storage unit across town. Emily didn't even know it existed. I added a lock only I had the key to. I also shifted a portion of my pay, just 20%, to a new account I opened at a credit union near base. It wasn't a lot, not enough to trigger suspicion, but enough to land on my feet if something exploded. I even moved a few sentimental things to that unit. My mom's silver necklace, my grandfather's old compass, my army commendation medals. Things Emily never cared about and might not even notice were gone. I was preparing for war. I just didn't know it would be fought at home. The last night before I deployed, she hugged me at the airport. No tears, no trembling hands, just a quick embrace and, "Stay safe, okay?" Like I was a coworker going on a business trip, not her husband flying into a war zone. As I boarded the plane, I remember thinking, if I die out there, will she even care? But then you shove those thoughts down. You focus on the mission. You don't let emotions get in the way of the work. That's the thing about soldiers. We compartmentalize everything, even heartbreak. The thing about being stuck in a hospital bed is that you have a lot of time. Too much, sometimes. You start thinking in loops, playing conversations back in your head, noticing silences that didn't feel so loud the first time. It had been 3 days since I got the email, 3 days of pretending I was fine, nodding through checkups, saying, "better every day," with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. But inside, I was starting to feel something burn. Not rage, not sadness. Something colder, focused, tactical. On the 4th night, I waited until the ward was quiet. The kind of quiet you only hear in military hospitals, where pain, sleep, and morphine keep everything at a low hum. I pulled my laptop onto my lap, opened the banking app, and logged into our joint account. The number hit me like a punch. $18.63. I blinked, refreshed the page, same result. I clicked on transaction history. There they were, dozens of transfers. Starting small, $50 here, $100 there, then bigger ones, $1,000, $3,200, $46,000 just a week ago. Every single one to an external account I didn't recognize. I felt the muscles in my jaw tighten. Our emergency fund, gone. The savings we'd built over a decade, deployment by deployment, gone. I stared at the screen for a long time, then opened the tab to our home security system. Emily never cared about it, said it was overkill. I'd installed the cameras myself. One in the front yard, one over the garage, one in the kitchen, a few inside, mostly for peace of mind when I was overseas. The system pinged. New footage uploaded. I clicked play. A man I'd never seen before walked into my kitchen. He was wearing my Seahawks sweatshirt, the same one Emily gave me after my second tour. He opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, let my dog out into the yard, fed him from the scoop I always used. Then he sat on my couch. Emily walked in a minute later, smiling. She kissed him on the cheek. I paused the video, sat back, took a breath, and realized this wasn't some fling. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a full-on replacement, and she'd been planning it for months. I closed the video feed, opened a spreadsheet, started documenting everything: transfers, dates, amounts, IP addresses, screenshots of security footage. I saved copies to an encrypted folder, then backed it all up to cloud storage and an external hard drive I kept in my hospital drawer. By the time the sun rose over the German hills outside my window, I had over 40 pages of documented evidence, not because I wanted revenge, but because I was trained to gather intel before making a move. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was operational. That morning, Dr. Keller came in to check my leg. He asked how I was feeling. "Clear-headed," I said. And for the first time in weeks, I meant it. By the end of that week, I had a digital folder thicker than most case files. Dates, transfers, footage, even screenshots of texts Emily had forgotten to delete from the shared tablet before I deployed. A few were innocent, most weren't. One, in particular, burned into my mind. He's gone for months. It's like we already live here. Jeremy. That was the first time I had a name. Jeremy. It was time to call Marcus. We served together in Afghanistan back in 2010. He was a linguist with a law degree collecting dust, until he left the army, passed the bar, and opened a small practice in San Diego. I sent him a secure message. Need to talk. Urgent. Military-related. Trust level. Maximum. He called within the hour. Adam, it's been a minute. Too long, I said. Wish this was a catch-up call. Tell me everything. I did. He didn't interrupt once. When I was done, he let out a long breath. Jesus, that about sums it up. All right, Marcus said. Here's what we do. First, we pull your credit report. All 3 bureaus. Let's see if anything else is hiding. We did. And just like that, the next blow landed. 3 credit cards I never opened. One with a $12,000 balance. The billing address matched our house. Purchases included luxury skincare, designer clothes, and 2 round-trip tickets to Hawaii, purchased a week after I got hit in Syria. That trip happen? Marcus asked. I was bleeding into the dirt in Deir ez-Zor. Then, it's fraud. He paused. Let's take a look at the mortgage next. I sent him the original VA loan documents. Then, the most recent statement. Marcus called back 30 minutes later. Your mortgage was refinanced 2 months ago. Pulled $150,000 in equity. I never signed anything. I know. I looked at the signature. It's close, but not close enough. He sent a scanned copy. The A in my name had a loop. Mine didn't. The middle initial was wrong. They forged it, I said quietly. Yep. And here's the kicker. Jeremy is listed as a co-applicant. He doesn't own the property, but he signed as if he did. That was the moment the switch flipped. No more confusion. No more hesitation. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. This was warfare, waged with pens and passwords instead of bullets and bombs. I opened a new document, titled it Operation Fallout. Under Objectives, I wrote 1. Secure financial assets. 2. Legally invalidate fraudulent refinance. 3. Freeze credit. 4. File police report. 5. Initiate divorce counterclaim. 6. Protect pension and VA benefits. I stared at the list, then added one more. 7. Do not engage emotionally. This wasn't about revenge. It was about consequences. I was a soldier, after all. And this was my new mission.
Marcus and I knew we were looking at something bigger than a messy divorce. But we still didn't know how deep it went. That's when Marcus recommended we bring in a private investigator. His name was Travis Cole. Ex-cop turned independent. Wore the same brown leather jacket in every season. Talked like he hated small talk. And worked fast. 2 days after I gave him the green light, Travis called. You're going to want to sit down for this. I'm already lying in a hospital bed, I said. Then you're right where you need to be. He started with the boyfriend, Jeremy Fields. Real name, Jeremy Ryan Fields. 2 prior arrests, Travis said. 1 in Phoenix, 1 in Vegas. Both for real estate-related fraud. Plea deals both times. Avoided prison. But here's the kicker. He has a pattern. What kind of pattern? Gets involved with women going through divorce or military deployment. Helps them restructure their finances. Usually ends with him walking away with a cut of the house sale. 3 women I found already. He paused. Looks like your wife might be number 4. My fingers tightened around the phone. Is she in on it? Too early to say. But either she's blind or she's in deep. I didn't reply. He continued. Next part's gonna sting a little. There's a listing, brand new, for your house. Just popped up on a quiet real estate site. Underpriced by about $80,000. I sat up straighter. You're sure it's mine? Address matches. Photos of your living room. Your backyard. Dog bowl by the kitchen door. What's the listed price? $430,000. Your neighborhood's average is $510 easy. Who listed it? A guy named Daniel Spence. Goes by Spencer, licensed real estate agent. And, surprise, surprise, connected to Jeremy. They've closed at least 2 prior deals together. I stared at the wall across from me, willing it not to spin. Jeremy's getting ready to sell my house, I said flatly. Looks that way. Quiet sale, probably a cash buyer. No MLS listing. No public open house, just enough to slip under the radar. And the mortgage refinance? Travis hesitated. That's the part that really ticks me off. He'd pulled the transaction history from the county registrar.
The refinance paperwork was filed 3 days after your surgery in Germany. You were unconscious. No way you signed anything. I closed my eyes. Of course they'd waited until I was on pain meds and couldn't fight back. Of course they moved quickly, like predators. This guy's a professional, Travis said. He's done this before. Plays on the chaos, the timing. He knows most soldiers don't have time or clarity to fight financial fraud during recovery. But he'd made one mistake. He assumed I was like the others. Broken, distracted, disoriented. He didn't know I was documenting everything, watching, planning. I opened my notebook and wrote a single line. She wasn't rebuilding her life. She was rewriting mine. I looked out the hospital window. Somewhere across the ocean, in a house I'd once called home, 2 people were drinking from my mugs and sleeping in my bed, thinking they'd won. But I wasn't dead, and I wasn't done. By now, I had enough evidence to build a case file thicker than a deployment manual. But this wasn't just about me anymore. Marcus had flagged something in one of our late-night calls. 3 other vets I've represented had oddly similar situations, he said. Deployment, divorce, refinance fraud, all with a suspiciously smooth real estate sale. It wasn't coincidence, it was a pattern, a system, and it was targeting soldiers. Especially the wounded ones. Men like me. That's when we brought in the FBI. Marcus had a contact, Agent Leah Patel, White Collar Division, San Diego Field Office. She specialized in financial crimes, especially those crossing state lines or involving veterans' benefits. She listened silently as we laid it out, the forged refinance docs, the underpriced listing, the boyfriend with a record, the real estate agent with connections, the stolen funds, the security footage. And then I said it, this isn't just betrayal. They didn't just try to steal from me, they tried to take my identity, rewrite my life like I never existed. She didn't blink. We've been tracking Jeremy Fields for 11 months, Agent Patel said. You just handed us the missing piece. I handed over everything. Digital files, cloud backups, printed statements, surveillance footage, even screenshots of Jeremy's name in the credit card transactions. Spence's signature on the real estate listing. Agent Patel and her team were impressed. She even said it. Most people don't document this well. You trained for this, didn't you? I looked her in the eye. I trained to save lives, but I know how to plan a mission. She smiled. Good. Because we're about to run one. They put a freeze on all title transfers on my property, initiated subpoenas for the financial accounts involved, began background checks on everyone. Jeremy, Spence, even Emily. A sting was forming. One that needed just a little more bait, and I was willing to dangle it. The plan was simple. Let them think I was still recovering, still unaware, still broken. Let them get comfortable. Meanwhile, I kept feeding the FBI intel in real time. Every new text from Emily, every new movement on the home security cameras. Then, just like that, boom. An update on the listing. Open to private cash buyers only. Jeremy was ready to sell. He thought I was thousands of miles away. Too weak to notice. But I wasn't in a hospital anymore. I was in a motel 2 blocks from my old house, watching, waiting. And when the time came, the trap would spring. And for the first time since this all began, I was ready. The house looked exactly the same. Same white siding. Same front porch I'd repainted the summer before deployment. Same wind chime she said was too loud, still swaying in the breeze. I watched from a car parked down the block. Engine off. Security camera feed streaming to my phone. The same cameras they'd forgotten were still connected. At 9:17 a.m., the black SUV pulled into the driveway. Daniel Spence stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a forced grin. Jeremy followed, clipboard in hand, talking like he was in charge. They walked inside. A minute later, Emily appeared on camera, holding a coffee mug, mine. They stood in the living room, my living room, while Spence pointed to the fireplace, and Jeremy showed off the back patio. That's when Agent Patel's voice came through the earpiece. Targets inside. Cameras confirm presence. We're a go. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. This was just another operation. A mission with a target, a plan, and a clock. At 9:24 a.m., two unmarked vehicles rolled up silently. Then the van. Then two more cruisers. Doors opened. Agents in plainclothes and tactical vests moved with surgical precision. 3 knocks on the door. FBI, open up. Inside, I saw Spence drop his clipboard. Jeremy turned toward the back door. Classic flight instinct. Didn't make it. 2 agents took him down on the back step. Spence was cuffed in the living room. Calm at first, until they started reading him his rights. Emily stood frozen near the kitchen island, wide-eyed, coffee mug still in hand. I stepped out of my car and walked slowly down the block. She spotted me through the front window as they walked her boyfriend out in cuffs. Our eyes met. Hers full of disbelief. Mine? Empty. When I reached the porch, an agent held out his hand. You must be Adam. I nodded. Yeah. Inside, everything was surreal. Familiar, yet foreign. My walls, my furniture, my life. Occupied. Emily finally spoke. Her voice cracked. Adam, what is this? What's happening? She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying. She was confused. Or pretending to be. I looked around. At the listing papers on the table. At the manila folder labeled Quick Sale Contract. At Jeremy's laptop, still open to Zillow. You tell me, I said quietly. She stepped forward. I didn't know. Jeremy handled everything. I thought it was legit. I didn't answer. An agent approached me with a clipboard. We'll need a statement. But your file helped us nail this. You did good, Staff Sergeant. Just Adam now, I said. Emily watched as the agents moved out. Jeremy and Spence in the back of a cruiser. One of them looked over his shoulder. I looked at her one last time. Not with hate, not with regret. Just a calm, final silence. I never start fights, I said, but I always finish them. Then I turned around and walked away from everything that used to be mine. The divorce was finalized 2 months after the arrest. No court battle, no drawn-out drama, just paperwork. Emily waived all claims to the house, the pension, the accounts, even the dog. In return, I agreed not to press criminal charges. But I filed a civil suit anyway, and won. A judge ordered full restitution of all the stolen funds. It would take years for her to repay it, but that wasn't the point. It wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. The house sat empty for a while. I walked through it one last time, touched the hallway walls, ran my fingers along the banister I'd installed on leave. The bedroom felt hollow, the kitchen even more so. Some wounds don't bleed, they echo. I sold the house 3 weeks later. Too many memories, too much noise in the quiet. I took the money, packed up my truck, and drove north. 4 states later, I landed in rural Washington, not far from the Olympic Forest, where the trees are taller than the houses and the air smells like cedar and cold water. I bought 10 acres of land and a small 2-bedroom cabin with a wraparound porch. No neighbors in sight. A creek running just behind the tree line. The kind of place you go to find peace, or to finally admit you need it. I filed for early retirement from the Army. 20 years. Enough. I'd given all I had. My uniform was folded into a cedar chest. My medals packed away. But my discipline? That stayed. I started building furniture in a small barn behind the cabin. Nothing fancy. Tables, chairs, frames. I'd always loved working with my hands. Now I had the time to make something that didn't break. And every Thursday, a few local veterans came by. We called it shop therapy. No pressure. Just coffee, wood, and silence. The kind that heals. I didn't talk much about Emily. Didn't need to, but the lesson stayed with me. Trust your gut. Protect what's yours. And never assume peace is permanent. Not in war, not in marriage, not in life. It arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Just a cream-colored envelope, handwritten. The kind you don't see much anymore. Inside was a single piece of paper, lined, torn from a spiral notebook. The handwriting was neat, careful. Dear Adam, you don't know me, but I know what you did. My husband is in the Navy. He was deployed when Jeremy Fields and Daniel Spence tried to run the same scheme on us. They said the house needed to be restructured for tax reasons. Said they were doing it for our protection. But because of you, we knew the signs. The FBI warned us. Froze the sale in time. Because of what you did, my family still has a home. Thank you. SL, Fort Worth. I read it twice, then a third time. The letter didn't say much, but it said everything that needed saying. I stood in the middle of my workshop for a long time, just holding it. Then I picked up a thumbtack and pinned it to the wall above my workbench, right next to a hand-carved plaque that read, "Finish what you start." I never wanted to be part of someone else's story, but maybe that's the point. We fight so others don't have to. And sometimes, the fight follows you home. But if you stay sharp, stay steady, you don't just survive. You build something stronger. They thought I was too broken to fight back. Thought a man with scars and screws in his leg wouldn't notice what was being taken from him. But they forgot what the army teaches you. You don't break. You adapt. You endure. You rebuild. They took my marriage. Tried to take my home. My identity. My silence for weakness. But I wasn't quiet because I was afraid.
I was quiet because I was planning. And when the time came, I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just moved. Precise. Steady. Like I always had. Because some of us don't break. We sharpen. We get still. And then we strike. They'll forget my face, but they won't forget my name. Because no one, not a calm, not a liar, not even the woman I once loved, gets to steal it. Not while I'm still breathing.